how we got to where we are today, because too many people just accept things. You know, when you're born into this world, you just accept what your parents tell you, you accept what the teachers tell you, and before you know it, you just become a child of the world that you live in, and never realizing that your world that you live in has been brought about and made over thousands of years of ignorant people who don't know, and so you have come into the world and just accept what you see and accept what you hear, and never realizing for a moment the world is not what you think it is, history is not what you think it is. So there's an idea that has developed over thousands of years, that is that there are two kinds of stories, and there's two of almost everything. There's an exoteric story, and there's an esoteric, spelled E-S. Exoteric story is the story that everybody knows, everybody's heard, but the esoteric story is the story nobody's heard. Very few people, and that's reserved for the wealthy and for the powerful to know, not you. I mean, George Carlin said it best, it's a big club and you ain't in it. And so once you're in the club, then you begin to see what the story really is and who's really running the show and what it's all really about. So that's what I've been trying to do for years, is just tell people and trying to show people that the world is not what you think it is. The words don't mean what you think they do. So at this point, where do you start? I've always been very interested in theology and religion, but I'm also aware that the government with every day are very important to people today. But let me give you an example of words that we take for granted that you really need to go back and look at. How many people go to church but have no idea in the world where the word church comes from? Church can be traced back to Scotland, where the word church is basically kirk, or Kirky, K-I-R-K, or K-E-R-K, can be spelled different ways. So if you're a Christian and you're going on Sunday morning to kirk, or in English you're going to church. But kirk is based on Circe, God, the ancient Babylonian system, which is a goddess. And when the Knights Templars went into the Middle East to take back Jerusalem for Christianity, the Knights Templars, while there in Jerusalem, also learned the customs and the ideas of the people. One of the most important religions during the Middle Ages, during the time of the Crusades in the Middle East, was the worship of a goddess named Circe. And she was referred to as Mother Circe, Mother Circe. Circe was able to hypnotize people and bring them into her house and shut the door behind them, and then magically, through some sort of a high magic, she would be able to take their minds away from them so that they were mindless. And because they're mindless, they couldn't find their way out to save themselves. So she took their minds and locked the door, and then she fed on them. She was able to eat them or feed on them and stay alive. And so she was like a black widow. She was able to bring people in, take their minds away, lock the door, and then feed off of them. That was the story of Mother Circe, or Mother Circe, which is Mother Kirk, which is Mother Church. So people don't realize that the very word church comes from an old ancient goddess that would bring people into her house, magically take their minds from them, and then eat off of them. Well, that's basically what's happening today. There are millions and millions of people going to churches. They have no idea in the world. When you talk to them, they have no idea what's being taught. They have no concept or idea about what they're doing. All they know is they go because everybody else goes, and that's what they've always done. And so, like the old story was, is that Circe took their minds. Therefore, they were not able to find their way out. Well, that's the same thing we see today. Even in the Christian religion alone, there's like 2,100 different Christian denominations around the world. Over 2,000 different denominations and groups calling themselves Christians. And all of them will tell you that they've got the truth and everybody else is wrong. So what is the fruitage of 6,000 years of religion? Today, all over the world, people are ignorant, ill-informed, unread, treated like cattle and slaves all over the world by religious leaders who fly around in their $25 million jets. We've got a big case going on in America today with all of these television evangelists making hundreds of millions of dollars a year off of the poor working class people flying around in their jets. And then when you start looking at their personal lives, it's terrible. It's horrible stuff. So I'm just saying, when you're going from day to day, look at the words and where they come from. And your life is affected by unseen forces. And I am totally convinced from all my years of listening to the experts and seeing the evidence that our lives are being orchestrated, like like an orchestra leader leading an orchestra. It's being orchestrated, and we don't realize how so many things that go on in our life are just routine and we don't even think about it. So you need to keep in mind that there's a spiritual presence on this earth, a very powerful spiritual, unseen presence on this earth that spiritual people have talked about for thousands of years, but it's true. There is some kind of a spiritual presence on this earth that's very, very evil. People are doing incredibly bad things, evil things, and then they tell us, then we hear them say, well, I was told to do that, and what caused you to do it? Well, somebody told me to do it. So I'm just saying, be very careful about what you join. Go back and start doing some research on whatever it is you belong to, whatever society or church or group or mosque or synagogue, it doesn't matter. The world is laying in the power of a dark force. It's in all religions, it's in government, it's in law, it's in commerce. We are living in a very powerful, dark time in the history of the human race.